A long-awaited ceasefire in Gaza this Friday night. The thousands of Palestinians finally heading home.
The happiest day of our lives.
And the preparations to care for the Israeli hostages once they're free. Federal budget sneak peek.
No child should go to school hungry.
The help on the way for lower-income Canadians. Containing the measles. Which provinces are seeing a rise in infections as Ontario's outbreak ends? Plus, a slice of good luck?
You know, you need a little extra help. Here it is.
Why this pie shop believes it could make the Blue Jays' success even sweeter.
Global National, reporting tonight. Nitu Garcha.
Thousands of displaced Palestinians moving north to Gaza City today as the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas takes effect. Many of them returning to their homes, whether they're destroyed or not, as Israeli forces withdraw from some of Gaza's major urban areas. And while those troops are still present within the enclave, many Gazans are simply grateful for some measure of peace. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Israelis are now holding their breath for the return of the remaining hostages taken by Hamas during the October 7th attacks 2 years ago. There's also still much uncertainty over whether this fragile deal will mean permanent peace or even hold at all. For now, both Israelis and Palestinians are making the most of the reprieve. Vincent McAviney has our top story tonight.
As the dust settled in Gaza from the final Israeli bombardments before the ceasefire took effect, Palestinians were up early, packing and on the move. On this coastal highway, tens of thousands of the displaced, carrying whatever possessions they still have, are heading north in cars, on bikes and by foot to Gaza City. The happiest day of our lives. Today the war has ended. We asked the negotiators to complete the negotiations in full and to arrange for everyone to return across the entire Gaza Strip. Few expect to find their homes intact. One satellite imagery study this month estimates that almost 200,000 buildings in the Strip have been damaged since the war began. Either you find houses destroyed or find no signs of your house at all. People think it's better to go back and build a tent on the ruins. The Israeli army is pulling back to the lines agreed under the peace plan ahead of the hostages and prisoner swap, expected before a noon local time Monday deadline. Celebrations have been continuing in Tel Aviv's Hostages Square. Preparations, too, underway for the 20 remaining hostages to begin their long recovery.
Everyone comes with a different trauma, but the loss of control and the trauma that they passed in the October 7th, it's the biggest one.
It's a challenging journey former hostage Luis has been through.
They need time. First, to understand it's true. It's not a movie. To understand they are here. We are afraid for some noise or some fly. Everything maybe is make us back to Gaza.
US President Donald Trump is planning to fly in for the hostage prisoner exchange. If all goes well, humanitarian organizations are preparing to surge Gaza with aid including food, fuel and shelters. The beginning of what will likely be a decades-long recovery operation. Vincent McAviney, Global News, London.
Prime Minister Mark Carney previewed some affordability measures today, following through on campaign promises ahead of next month's federal budget. 3 programs will be rolled out November 4th, and as David Akin reports, one of them has the potential to put hundreds of dollars back in the pockets of millions of low-income Canadians.
How are you, Mr. Mayor? Good, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Ottawa Mayor Mark Sutcliffe catches up with a local MP, the Prime Minister, who stopped in at a recreation centre in his riding of Nepean to talk about his upcoming budget. A budget, he said, that will make the National School Food Program permanent. That's a program that provides free lunches for about 400,000 kids.
No child should go to school hungry or sit in a classroom all day wondering where their next meal will come from.
The budget will also have funding to bring back the Canada Strong Pass for the Christmas holidays and for next summer. This program gives young people a 25% discount on via rail travel and made admission to national parks and museums free for kids. The PM also committed to carry through on a promise Liberals made years ago to create automatic tax returns for low-income Canadians so that those Canadians can get GST rebates, the Canada Child Benefit, and other federal benefits they might have been missing out on because they had never filed a tax return. And that could eventually help more than 5.5 million Canadians.
And this is our economic plan to meet this hinge moment in Canada's history.
Meanwhile, Mark Carney's chief political opponent was meeting with workers in the Greater Toronto area where, in an interview with Global News, he argued the best thing the Liberals could do to make life more affordable would be to cut taxes.
The problem is that Carney's Liberal taxes are too high, especially on the working poor. Right now, we have the biggest gap between rich and poor in Canadian history, according to Statistics Canada. That's because of high Liberal taxes and inflation.
Now, the House of Commons will be dark next week for the Thanksgiving break, but when MPs get back after that, they're going to have just 2 weeks to do the horse trading the Liberals have to do in order to find at least one opposition party to support their budget. Neithu.
Okay, David Akin in Ottawa. Thanks, David. Canada's job market defied expectations last month thanks to a spike in employment. According to Statistics Canada, September saw 60,000 jobs added to the labor market. 28,000 jobs came from the trade-sensitive manufacturing industry, which saw its first gains since January. The unemployment rate held steady at just over 7%. Economists had predicted a modest job loss for September. The union representing Canada Post striking workers is shifting from a nationwide walkout to rotating strikes instead. In a statement, the union says the change will take effect Saturday morning, allowing mail and parcel deliveries to start moving. Canada Post says that will resume next week, but uncertainty and instability remain given the rotating strikes. The change in job action comes after the union met with the federal minister responsible for Canada Post to voice concerns over the government's planned overhauls of the service. There is a promising signal Canada's worst year for measles infections in decades may be winding down. This week, Ontario declared its nearly year-long outbreak over. But elsewhere in the country, cases of the disease continue to spread. As Heather Yurex-West reports, Canada is at risk of losing a key status symbol of vaccine success.
It was a flurry of infections that made more than 2,300 people sick, sent 167 people to hospital and 12 to the ICU. But just shy of a year after measles first spread in Ontario, the outbreak in that province has been declared over.
The Public Health Agency of Canada recommends that jurisdictions use a period of 46 days since the last symptom onset date to declare an outbreak over. And on October 6th, we met this criteria.
But this year's outbreak was not Ontario's alone. Beginning with a travel-related case in New Brunswick last October, the highly infectious disease spread from coast to coast to coast, surging in communities where vaccination levels were low.
Measles is a highly infectious virus. And if people aren't immunized, it can easily spread from person to person. And also because you may not know it's measles early on in the illness because it can just look like a cold, it can spread very easily.
While cases of the illness have been reported in nearly every province or territory this year, only Alberta and Manitoba have seen new cases reported in the last week. If local transmission isn't stopped by October 27th, a year after the first locally acquired case was recorded, Canada could lose its status of having eliminated measles, something first achieved 27 years ago.
Quite frankly, I think it would be an embarrassment, right? We are a high-income country. We have functional and high-caliber public health across the country at federal, provincial, and municipal levels.
Within the Americas, Venezuela and Brazil are the only other countries to have lost their elimination status in the last decade, both regaining it by 2024. Federal health officials say the Pan American Health Organization will make the final decision on whether Canada loses its elimination status when it meets with member countries this November. Heather Yurex-West, Global News, Calgary.
The Canadian Coast Guard and its 126 vessels are known for providing search and rescue services in Canadian waters. And now it's adding on new duties by transitioning to the Department of National Defence. The federal government says the change will help to better protect our coastline, including in the Arctic. And as Heidi Petracek reports, it also helps move the needle on Canada's international commitments.
The pomp of the formal ceremony came with purpose.
Geography does not protect Canada the way it once did. This is especially true in the Arctic, where our adversaries and competitors are eyeing the region.
That's why the Canadian Coast Guard, a civilian agency, will now become part of national defense. But there are no plans to arm its ships or personnel. Instead, it's a move meant to enable coordination with the military during emergencies, such as natural disasters, and for intelligence gathering at sea.
So with our new mandate, we will have that legal ability to share information.
The transition is a response to geopolitical instability, a time when the National Defense Minister says extra eyes on the water are needed.
There are a number of countries that don't believe that Canada has sovereign waters, certainly in the Arctic, and we're having to contend with this.
It makes very good sense that we have this marine presence affiliated directly with defense.
This means 6,000 Canadian Coast Guard members and their support staff will now fall under the umbrella of national defense, which means learning new ways of doing things, new methods of communication, and new technologies. The Coast Guard's $2.8 billion budget also helps Ottawa tick another box, an international promise it's under pressure to fulfill.
It will matter from the 3% budget aspect of NATO spending, that we will have another thing that falls in under that envelope of money.
The Coast Guard will still perform search and rescue operations, research and fisheries enforcement. Its commissioner insists the agency does have the capacity to add a defense role to all those duties. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to slap an additional 100% tariff on China in retaliation for Beijing's plan to impose export controls on all its products. On Truth Social, Trump called China's plans extremely hostile. He says the new tariffs will be over and above any duties already implemented and will take effect on November 1st when Chinese export controls begin. Trump also suggested he may no longer speak with Chinese leader Xi Jinping at the APEC summit in South Korea in 2 weeks. The threat is a huge step back for China-U.S. relations after months of diplomatic talks to de-escalate their trade war. Deadly blast at a factory that makes explosives. Coming up, how the building was left obliterated. Plus, why Venezuela's opposition leader won this year's Nobel Peace Prize. 19 people are unaccounted for after a deadly blast in Tennessee. An explosives manufacturing plant blew up this morning about 100 kilometers from Nashville. It was so powerful it leveled the facility and heavily damaged vehicles in the parking lot.
We've got a lot of moving parts. We got a very big investigation. This is not going to be something that we're going to be like a car wreck or something like that we're just going to clean up the debris and leave. We're going to probably be here for a few days.
5 people were taken to hospital. The cause of the explosion is under investigation. Large parts of Ukraine's capital are in the dark. Russia launched an intense bombardment on Kyiv's key energy infrastructure. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called it a cynical and calculated attack targeting basic needs as winter approaches. But as Jackson Prosco reports, Ukraine is also inflicting major damage on Russia's oil and gas sector.
Much of Ukraine's capital was plunged into darkness after a major Russian attack targeting civilian energy infrastructure with hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles. We have no electricity, no gas, no water, nothing, says this woman. At least one drone struck an apartment building, injuring 12, leaving behind a burnt-out shell of what were once homes and lives. It's all part of a well-tested Russian tactic, depriving Ukrainians of heat and light just before the winter months. This time, it's also revenge. Ukraine has been increasingly successful in targeting Russia's energy infrastructure. striking refineries with drones, leading to shortages of gasoline nationwide.
I think Russia is actually right now, both economically and militarily, not in a very strong place.
The difficult situation was acknowledged in Washington Thursday, where U.S. President Donald Trump has grown frustrated with Russian President Vladimir Putin over his refusal to make a peace deal.
I would have thought the Russia deal maybe would have been one of the easier ones, and unfortunately last week they had over 7,000 soldiers die unnecessarily.
Friday came one small glimmer of optimism as the American First Lady, Melania Trump, announced a deal to repatriate 8 Ukrainian children from Russia, just some of the estimated 19,000 abducted at the start of the war.
I hope peace will come soon. It can begin with our children.
Back in Kyiv, residents face another night in the dark and cold as they wait to see if Russia will attack again. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
Courage honored. Ahead, the fight for democracy that earned a Venezuelan woman Nobel's most coveted award. A new video released for World Mental Health Day left Prince William fighting back tears. It was during a conversation at the home of Rianne Mannings, a widow who lost her husband to suicide just days after their baby died in 2012.
But I would just like to sit him down like this and just say, why didn't you come to me? Because he's missed out on just so much joy, and we would have been okay. And I think that's what the hardest thing is. We would have been okay. You okay?
I'm sorry, it's hard to ask you questions that I know.
Hard, and you've experienced loss yourself.
Very nice to see you.
The film coincides with the launch of a national suicide prevention network in the UK, backed by the Royal Foundation, aimed at understanding the root causes of suicide and expanding support. The Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. The 58-year-old was honored for her tireless work promoting democratic rights and her bravery in standing up to an authoritarian regime. She has been in hiding after being barred from last year's election, but said she's humbled by the recognition. Eric Sorensen has more on her extraordinary story and the message her recognition sends to the White House.
Maria Corina Machado.
Not the Nobel announcement that was expected.
A woman who keeps the flame of democracy burning amidst a growing darkness.
Maria Corina Machado has spent years in Venezuela unifying the opposition to fight for free elections and end the dictatorship of Nicolas Maduro.
So the warmest congratulations to you, Maria.
She was almost speechless when she got the call.
Oh my God. This is a movement. This is a achievement of a whole society. I am just, one person.
Machado is popular, but has gone into hiding as the Maduro regime cracks down on dissent.
The fact that she remains in Venezuela, hiding in the face of widespread and systematic repression, I think speaks volumes.
The news today is also about who did not get the award.
I ended 7 wars.
U.S. President Trump had all but campaigned to be recognized.
Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize for each one of these achievements.
Many, including Israelis, touted Trump's role in brokering peace in Gaza. One White House spokesperson calls the Nobel snub politics over peace. But one analyst thinks the Nobel Committee's message to Trump and Latin America is that democracy is backsliding.
The committee is sending a powerful message that democracy needs to be back at the center of the discussions. It's not only about America first and make America great, it's about democracy.
Machado herself is controversial. She supports Trump's efforts challenging Maduro and the U.S. military attacks on so-called drug boats. Online, she dedicated the Peace Prize to suffering Venezuelans and to Trump. Could the U.S. president win the prize he covets someday?
If it is nominated, then it will be considered, but time will show.
Some Norwegian politicians say they're preparing for repercussions from Washington for Trump feeling slighted. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Next, the legend of the Blue Jays' Lucky Pie, how fans are turning to the old tradition during this World Series push. After a thrilling series win over the Yankees, the Toronto Blue Jays are now waiting to see who their next opponent will be in the playoffs. As the Jays gear up for their first shot at a World Series berth since 1993, some fans are recalling the sweet superstition behind that last title run. Megan King brings us this sweet story.
With that game-winning home run in the 1993 World Series final, Joe Carter brought home a victory for the Toronto Blue Jays. Here on the corner of a neighborhood in Kensington Market, one pie shop says they played a role in his success.
Every schoolboy's dream, win the World Series with a home run. And we take full responsibility and credit for that home run because Joe Carter ate a coconut cream pie that morning that we delivered right before the game.
Beaver says Carter was a fan of the shop and would bring his family by to bake at Wanda's. While the mom and pop shop offer plenty of pies to choose from, coconut cream pie was his favorite, so that's the one that holds the magic.
You know, you need a little extra help. Here it is. Come and get it.
Providing Carter with that extra little lift to bring home Toronto's last World Series, the Beavers hope the tradition can carry on.
Is it your belief that more of the coconut cream pie could mean another World Series for the Toronto Blue Jays?
Every time we talk about it and a customer or a friend comes in to have a piece of pie, we tell them the story and the Blue Jays win. So that's happened all this past week. So I think that tradition can continue going into the next series.
I totally believe that, and I actually saw someone eating the pie as we walked by, and it looked so delicious.
We were like literally just talking about getting it after as well.
This place is magical.
It is, it's so good.
We're on fire at the moment, so I'm really cautiously optimistic, but every little bit helps. And swinging by Wanda's, picking up a coconut cream pie, certainly won't do any harm.
Ahead of the Thanksgiving long weekend and with the Jays continuing their run, Wanda's does have a full plate, but lucky enough, there's always room for dessert. Megan King, Global News.
Now we're all hungry. That is Global National for this Friday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, a patriotic bench in Wetaskiwin, Alberta, and a garage in Coquitlam, British Columbia. Please keep emailing your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching and hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great night.